Once upon a time, in a sun-drenched valley, there lived a fellow named Joe. Joe was a good man, but Joe had a problem. Joe was dirt poor. While others in the tribe had piles of shiny rocks reaching the cave ceiling, Joe only had a few dusty pebbles in his corner. One day, while wandering deep into the woods, Joe discovered something incredible, a gargantuan blue crystal rock. It was as big as 3 mammoths and glowed like the sun. Joe knew that if he could bring this rock back to the tribe, he'd be the wealthiest man alive, able to trade it for 10,000 bundles of bananas and the respect of every girl in the cave. But there was a tiny snag. Joe couldn't lift it. He strained, he sweated, his muscles bulged, but the rock remained as stubborn as his wife on a cold morning. Joe was desperate. He had empty hands, and empty hands cannot lift destiny. Just then, a large shadow loomed over Joe. It was the Fat Chief, the tribe's well-fed leader, adorned with heavy gold necklaces. He smiled, a kind of smile Joe had never seen before. The Fat Chief didn't help Joe lift the rock. Instead, he handed Joe a long wooden stick and a small stone to use as a fulcrum. He signaled for Joe to wedge the sticks under the giant crystal. Joe was skeptical, but as he pressed down on one end of the stick, a miracle happened. The massive rock began to budge. With just the pressure of a single finger, Joe lifted a fortune that his entire body couldn't move moments before. The Fat Chief leaned in and whispered dark magic into Joe's ear. He called this stick leverage. It allowed Joe to use a tiny bit of his own strength, combined with the length of the stick borrowed from the chief, to create 10 times the power. Joe was ecstatic. He felt like a god. He borrowed more and more sticks from the Fat Chief to lift even bigger rocks. The formula was simple. You don't need to own many rocks to get more rocks. You just need a very long stick. In our world, that stick is called debt. Joe was using debt to amplify his caveman muscles. But there was one thing the Fat Chief didn't tell Joe. The stick doesn't make the rock lighter. The weight of the rock is still there. It's just redirected through the stick and placed onto Joe's skinny shoulders through a fragile pivot point. Joe grew greedy. He wasn't satisfied with blue crystals anymore. He wanted to lift purple crystal mountains. He demanded the longest, thinnest sticks from the Fat Chief for maximum lift. Joe was using 1/100 leverage. With just one bundle of bananas as a deposit, he was controlling an entire warehouse of fruit. Suddenly, the ground shook. The market, or rather the mood of the gods, shifted. Joe's crystal rock didn't sit still anymore. It tilted slightly in the opposite direction. If the rock moves back just 1 centimeter at the other end of that incredibly long stick, Joe's arms are catapulted into the sky with terrifying force. Because the stick was so long, even the tiniest wobble of the rock became a death blow for Joe. Joe tried to hang on, but the pressure was too much. A loud crack echoed through the valley. The stick snapped in half. The Fat Chief appeared instantly, the friendly smile gone, and began seizing everything Joe owned to pay for the broken stick. Joe sat on the dirt, empty-handed, his cave hollow. He had learned a bitter lesson that veteran hunters always carve into the stone walls. Leverage isn't magic that creates matter out of nothing. It is merely a tool to displace time. Joe had borrowed the strength of future Joe to spend in the present. When things went well, Joe looked like a genius. When things went sideways, Joe ended up a beggar. The elder teaches, never choose a stick longer than your ability to control. If you only have the strength to hold a short branch, don't be a fool and grab a long pole just because you want to lift a mountain. Leverage can help you hunt a mammoth with a single wooden arrow, but it can also send that arrow flying back through your own heart if the winds of the market change direction. A wise hunter uses leverage to assist, not to replace, their actual foundation of strength. Now look at your own stick. Are you using debt to buy rocks that actually have value? Or are you using it to lift illusions that are far beyond your reach? Remember, the Fat Chief always has sticks ready for you to borrow, but he never takes the blame when that stick breaks. The only person pinned under the rock when leverage fails is you. Don't let your cave become empty just for a moment of borrowed glory from the future. Build your muscles before you touch the magic stick. If you found this lesson useful, leave a handprint on this wall by hitting the like button and joining our tribe. See you in the next hunt, hunters, and don't get crushed.